Now, when it comes to Drake, the more this guy and his team are just staying around and annoying everybody, the more problems they seem to create. And while we thought things would be a little quiet until Drake came back out with his Nokia music video, which is supposed to drop very soon, with what just happened, Drake and all the guys who follow him went absolutely insane about the most ridiculous thing you could think of. And really, with how far they have went, they just started an entire new beef with a different group of people in the absolute strangest and most pointless way. And really, when we look at the mess that Drake and his guys have created this time around, there is just no other way to look at this crew without seeing that they are the most pathetic people to ever try and associate themselves with what we know as rap music. And now, before we go any further into all of this and see just how bad Drake and his guys look for being this desperate, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now, as Drake and his guys are still finding ways to reach even lower lows, and at the same time, Kendrick Lamar is about to come back out soon and stop all of these games that they are trying to get away with playing. It has never been more important to like and subscribe. And so now, with all that said, say it with me, when it comes to Drake, well, sometimes when we talk about what this guy is doing and how it's affecting hip-hop as a whole, the consequences of it are really bad because Drake's decisions are diluting and putting the future of hip-hop as an art form in a horrible place. Well, this time around, with what the biggest losers in hip-hop have done now, in its entirety is just make themselves look more ridiculous and desperate than ever, and really within the funniest way possible. And now when it comes to what this situation started from, and who Drake and OVO are in a bit of a back and forth with at the moment, is not Kendrick Lamar or anybody near that caliber, and instead, they are beefing with none other than Nav, as when it comes to this guy, while he and Drake seem to split up in full during the height of the Kendrick beef last year, because as The Weeknd was involved with everything Future and Metro were doing and Nav is a part of XO, which is his label, he followed in line with what he did, of course. Well, now after all of that and Nav being an indirect part of that beef, after Drake was bothering him in that time as well, which is important to note, we have finally seen the continuation of all of that. And I guess what Nav has done is try and stick up and speak out for his city and where they are from against Drake and OVO, as on his new record, On My Way to Rexdale 2, on the track Back to Business, which for Nav is one of the most high energy and lyrical songs that he ever put together. The guy who produced a diss track for Drake in Back to Back a long time ago said, "Talkin' no cap, get peel quick. OVO body, I build. Say you want the smoke, get turned to a zip. Thought you was a man, but you turned to a..." And now with Nav dropping OVO's name and throwing some of the craziest bars or disses he ever has in his entire career at this crew, which again, as Nav is with XO and The Weeknd, this is of course a serious beef that has a lot more direct impact than any other Drake beef does on both of the parties. And that's all because these guys are just all from the same place. With all of this, the Drake community went absolutely crazy over these lines, and from fans to academics to low-ranking OVO affiliates, everybody was bashing Nav for saying this and trying to discredit him in every single way possible, but this story gets much more interesting and for Drake and his team pathetic from here. Because now, as these bars where Nav dissed Drake and his crew reached more and more people, and as a result were causing a lot of controversy and problems for them, as none other than Big Ak was instigating this situation as usual, and was at the forefront of trying to defend Drake and OVO from any sort of beef that they could be in with Nav and XO. After everybody kept escalating this thing and trying to make the idea of a Drake and Nav back and forth a real thing after he said this, after escalating this situation more and more, Ak had to backpedal on it entirely, as he later came out to tell every single person that Nav hit him up and was saying that the lyrics were being misquoted, and what the actual thing that Nav was saying on this record was not OVO body, but over your body, which I mean, I guess we don't have any reason to not believe that Nav would take a diss back if he meant it originally, because both from the fact of who he is affiliated with, to the fact that besides a Playboi Carti feature, this did give his record the most publicity that it got, there was no reason to take something back like this. And even more than that, within the context of this song, saying over your body does make a little more sense with the rhyme scheme than OVO body, although with the bars they very well could have applied to Drake. But to be honest, I don't think that Nav was playing on words like that or really trying to say something here if it was not clear, because again, this is Nav we are talking about. He is not a wordsmith or anything near that. But so now following all of this, after Nav came out with an official statement that was released through academics that was saying that he did not mean these bars to be directed at Drake or OVO and that he was not dissing them whatsoever. While sometimes if this happened, people would just walk away and realize that there was nothing here and that people were just reading into the lyrics or that they were misquoted. For Drake and OVO, who of course are the biggest losers in hip-hop and have not had an actual musical win in so long. Of course, because of all of this, they continued to stay livid at Nav, and in their own words, what they are believing is that Nav dissed Drake and his entire crew, and then was starting to see the repercussions of what he said, and then got so scared that he took back his words. And I mean, all of the low-ranking and desperate OVO affiliates were posting this around and trying to humiliate Nav. And of course, by doing this, they did their classic new pathetic little thing to try and make Drake look like this bigger and tougher guy than he is by labeling Nav as part of the infamous backpedal guys who do not want to have long-term beef with Drake because they actually need him or don't want to mess with the guy. And now with all of this, I mean, unless they are referring to Nav backpedaling by him being scared to get in a suit because Drake loves doing those clearly, and that is the only time he even tries to be intimidating, because of course with his own pen he can't do anything. With the fact that all of OVO was running around in circles because they made Nav take back a diss in their own words and believe that he is scared of Drake and his crew, I mean, you just heard what I said in of itself. And before I go any further, I'm not going to call anybody out specifically, but you can see just how hard certain people went to try and act like this is a massive win for them in Drake, and is still showing that they have this control and dominance over the entire industry and that no rappers want problems with them. Beyond some of the weirdest narratives ever that some of the people around Drake and who follow him desperately were trying to push to make this look like a victory. Let's just call this for what it is. With the fact that about a year ago the conversation was around Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and now fast forward to the present, and the debates and victories you are celebrating are around a beef with Drake and Nav? Come on, it's over. It's time to pack it up, and it's time to admit that you guys lost and you have reached lows that nobody could have ever thought of, because again, for what these guys believe, which is that they are hip-hop's premier crew, to be this excited over fake winning a beef with Nav of all people? The push for this narrative and to be this loud about this moment on their end is the biggest and most desperate move that I have seen from a fan base really in so long, because in actuality, let's just say Nav did diss Drake and OVO and then did take back his diss because he was scared of them. Who even cares? It's Nav at the end of the day. This is not even the top guy from another group of people that you have beef with, which in of itself should be disrespect from the weekend, because that is showing you that he doesn't even care enough to address Drake, and that he is letting such a smaller artist handle this, which again is the ultimate disrespect you could get in a beef. Overall just puts more into perspective that from the fact that Drake and OVO's actual competition group has changed from Kendrick or The Weeknd to now Nav, this entire moment just tells you everything you need to know about the current state of Drake and everyone around him in this moment, as to brag about winning a beef against Nav. This is like winning a game against one of the worst teams in the league and then running around like you are the champions for doing so. And really, if all these guys around Drake and OVO believe that he was on top and that he won against Kendrick and all of the other ridiculous things that they say, while on Kendrick's side of things, some disses and moments are so insignificant, lame, and laughable that they don't even need to be addressed, because Kendrick has done everything he ever needed to already to prove himself to so many different people, and this includes way bigger and better names in hip-hop and beyond than Nav. Clearly, the same thing isn't going on this side of hip-hop, because deep down inside, no matter how much they keep denying it, they know Drake's career is in shambles and that he lost the beef because, again, if you are a fan of somebody who you actually believe is at the top of what they do, you don't go running around being this loud of winners about something that probably didn't even happen on Nav's end in terms of him really ever meaning the diss. But honestly, going forward, whenever Drake, OVO, or their fans try to keep pushing beef forward and take down everything in hip-hop that has ever been quite decent, just remember that at the end of the day, these guys are clowns who are so desperate for anything that they are celebrating a win in a fake, made-up, and exaggerated beef against Nav. Which, like, I just can't believe that they thought this was cool or like this was gonna give them any credit, because it's Nav, and a Drake vs. Nav beef, even if Drake made the best disses of all time, would just be so embarrassing off the sheer principle of how much down the ladder Drake had went to even be in a situation quite like this. And I mean, in terms of the optics of this, just with who Drake used to be compared to and who he is still in active beefs with, this is exactly how this all looks, and there is no way around that, and really this situation is just so hilarious for that reason. So altogether, really from here, I don't even know what to say, but I just can't believe that this is the timeline of hip hop that we are seeing, because for a fan base to reach this low of a point, we are really just seeing a further and further descent from Drake and the people following him that is severing him from hip hop culture forever and again. Not just the central and big stuff like Kendrick Lamar represents, but even within the sound of his own city and even beyond rap, as Nav is signed to The Weeknd. To just drag something out like this in the most desperate way possible against other artists who do run your city and, in the case of The Weeknd, have one of the most successful careers of this generation, altogether it's just showing the bad path Drake is on, and only looks like he is going to go further and further down. But really in this time, OVO as a whole is just validating one another in their own delusion, and from celebrations at Raptors games to what the Nokia video is about to be like, they are pretending that they are not the worst thing in hip-hop right now, but of course we all know that they are. Overall, this game they are playing is not going to end well for Drake, and from here, I am sure that we are only going to see this guy not just ruin, but embarrass his legacy more like this. So now with all this said, let me know, what do you think about this ridiculous and embarrassing situation that Drake and his guys have reached in terms of the fact that they have created one of the strangest beefs and moments we have seen in the timeline of hip-hop recently? Now, I can't wait to hear what you all have to say about this, and if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And now, if you want to see how in this time, Things for Drake just got way worse, because Kendrick Lamar is about to come back out with even more music and experiences and make everything for Drake reach an all-time low by just showing how much better he is in every single way, check out the suggested video.